Hello my lovelies, I hope all is good in your neck of the wood. I am surrounded by piles of fabric and bits and pieces because I'm about to organise my inspiration shelf, and I thought I'd share that with you today. But Tara, what is an inspiration shelf, I hear you ask? Well, an inspiration shelf is this shelf right here where I display my fabrics and bits and pieces to create an inspiring vignette that inspires me to sew all the lovely things that I want for that season in my wardrobe.
This is what my inspiration shelf looked like before I cleared it away to make way for some lovely new inspiration using all my fabrics that I have hoarded and treasured.
First thing that you need when doing a inspiration shelf is a beverage du jour. So mine is Earl Grey tea, a teaspoon of honey, skimmed milk, dash of, and I've cleared my shelf, given it a little bit of a dust. I've used a little bit of beeswax on it, not too much because you don't want to discolour your fabric. And then I've gathered, which you can't see all in front of me, all the fabrics that I did show you in last week's video, which was my sort of sewing plans, things that I may or may not make. So all of that's in front of me, and any other bits and pieces that kind of go with that inspire me. So it's sort of like doing a mood board or a sketchbook or something like that, but I'm doing it as a vignette on a shelf because I love a vignette on a shelf. The first thing I've done is I've put piles of fabrics together kind of into the stories. So I've got this blue story over here. This one I haven't quite sorted out yet. This one is a kind of lilac-y blush and blue story. There's patterns that I am thinking about making, and not all of this is going to end up on the shelf. Got these really lovely vintage transfers. This is leftover bridal fabric, some silks, enough to make a slip, which I'm really in need of. So I've got these lovely vintage sort of how-to book, Pretty is a book of lingerie sewing secrets, and then this 1930s pattern, which is not my size, but I'm going to use my own bespoke blocks to create a copy of this one. So in a minute I'm going to have a look through my laces and bits and pieces and add that to there. And then one of the things that you can do is embroider little details on. So I'm thinking about maybe using this vintage swallow pattern. As you know, I'm rather partial to swallows. I have tattooed one on my hand and I love that. And also there's a kind of slightly nautical, slightly sailory thing. So that goes with the sort of the blue story. And then here I've put this pile of fabrics folded up. I can never fold fabric really neatly, but this one is for a Patreon exclusive project. It's going to be the first actual garment pattern that you can download. That will be exclusive to Patreon, so that's for that. Then I have this for a shirt dress. I'm going to make a tea dress out of this, and this is also for the Patreon Tara School of Dressmaking. What I'm doing with this shelf is sort of putting the priority projects, the sort of main inspiration, and instead of just piling up loads of fabrics, which I find a bit overwhelming, just putting this on here, because the prettier it looks, to my eyes at the very least, the more likely I am to crack on and do these things and be excited about them. So that's where I am so far. Now I'm gonna rootle through all of my lace. Here's my dish of lusciousness. So these are all like flower brooches. These are all bits that I've collected. Look, I've got a load of nautical themed bits in there, buttons, so bits of lace like this. I'm just looking through to see if there's a lovely card from Curious Pip at Curious Pip. If you don't follow her, you really must. But how lovely is that? I think that's got to come out and go on my shelf. There's lace collars. Must actually become reacquainted with those. But look how gorgeous that is. So this is very old, like a broderie anglaise. I mean, it's probably Edwardian, that one. So all these bits and pieces. I actually have got more lace somewhere. I'm going to have to dig around for that, but this is rather lovely.
I call this box Pandora's box because what you must never do on any account ever is open Pandora's box, because all sorts of things come out of it. Hopefully lovely things in this case. I can never ever seem to get the lid back on though.
This is where we are so far. I've added more fabrics here because this one I want to do this one in, and I would put the patterns on there, but what I'm going to do, because obviously you need it to look sort of pleasing to the eye, I'm just going to put these at the front of where I keep my patterns. So my patterns are kept in these little plastic baskets, so the patterns that I'm going to be using I pop at the front. Here's like vintagey ones. So another thing that I want to make is this, that can go in the front there, and then I have this one that I want to make, which I wouldn't normally put in front of the vintage, that's the wrong basket, but I just sort of want the things that I'm going to be making at the front to tie in with all of these. And this will all change as I go through, but this I'm making my birthday outfit, and I like how the green ties in with the green here, which ties in with the green of this blue story. These are old Celia Birtwell for Aussie Clark fabrics and a vintage sort of periwinkle blue. I didn't know that periwinkle was the colour of the year, Pantone colour of the year, but apparently so. So I'm making a shirt dress out of this, and I'm using this to do the to do some accents on it. I've got my lingerie story here. These are some really beautiful antique, really, the violet. These are lingerie buttons, linen buttons, or sometimes they were called laundry buttons. Now this has got this on the back, which is just as beautiful, but those are on there just because the lilac and the blue and the green is kind of the story here. And then vintage, very old lace, that one would make a lovely, like the trim around the top there. So I probably won't use all of these bits and pieces, but I just like creating the story. And then my Curious Pip little postcard, you should check her out, I'll link her. She makes beautiful dolls and beautiful art prints. I mean, her work is just out of this world divine. I'm a huge fan, and if I had all the money in the world, I would basically buy everything that she does because it's just so beautiful. So that's where we are so far. And then I have this little tin that I bought from Jacobs. Just going to put that there. It's a bit sailory, sewing, pin up, which I love. So that can go on there as well to just sort of add to my story. And I'm basically nearly there, but there's a couple of bits that I'm humming and hawing about. Here's another little thing that I found that is another story that I want to explore. These cherry transfers, and then this very old, this is probably 1920s lace, of bunches of cherries on a cherry tree. It's one of my most treasured little things, and I won't use it, I won't sew with it, but I just love it as a thing in and of itself. So this is another little story that I want to tell, and that's why stitching is just amazing, because it's a story through stitch that I want to tell. And whether that's garments or knitting or embroidery or making things for the home, we're telling a story about ourselves and who we are through the things that we're stitching. And it's why really my motto is make the world a better place, one stitch at a time, because we do. I've edited down this one just because it was beginning to look a little bit messy, too many things, but I'm pleased with how all these fabrics go together and how the colours sort of link in, and I can see how I can build outfits and what some of these garments are going to be. Some of them I'm actually not entirely sure, or I've forgotten, so I need to get on that. Sometimes you think you're going to make something, but then when you see it next to some other fabrics, you realise you need to make something else, because that can become an outfit. I've put my little tin there. I need to put something secret in there, like some bonbons. And here's the blue story and the lingerie story. And I just want to start sewing now. I want to start making. I would normally have some wool on here for the knitting projects that go with this, but I haven't actually got wool that goes with this stuff. I did buy some wool, but I'll do a separate wool thing at some point. And the other thing that I can't fit on here, I want to make one of my calypso skirts, so yeah, I just can't get it on there, so I'm gonna put that up on the shelf with all my other patterns and bits and pieces and my little treasured pin cushions and so on. Thank you so much for tuning in today, my lovelies. I hope you've enjoyed yourself and found this little video about how I make my inspiration shelf interesting or inspiring or useful at the very least. If you've enjoyed yourself and you haven't already subscribed, then please feel free to hit the subscribe button. I'm very grateful for all your support, because it means I can carry on doing things like this, which I really enjoy, and hopefully you enjoy too. Wherever you are in the world, my lovelies, I hope you're keeping safe and well, and I look forward to hanging out with you in my little cottage by the sea for more sewing adventures next time. Take care, my lovelies. Bye.